this conference was a conference run by Chatham House to talk about cybersecurity and really the broad strokes of cybersecurity. So that includes the kind of cybersecurity that's due diligence that countries do with each other, but also the topics around international security and cyber conflict and cyber instability, and how do we deal with all those issues, and how does that overlap with some of the other issues, including internet governance issues, internet freedom issues, and how can we have both a secure and open environment. There's been a lot of debate recently over internet governance and whether states should have a much greater role in controlling the internet versus the multi-stakeholder system. That sounds like an internet governance specific discussion, but really it has implications for security and how internet security is done, but also some of these larger normative issues, and they really all come together. I think there's plenty of challenges ahead. I think that there are regimes that have a much different policy view about whether this should be in an open environment or more of a controlled environment. And obviously we, and I think most of the people in the room, were pushing for the more open environment. I think there are going to be challenges in various international debates around the world, to be sure. The threats we're facing on the internet are ever greater, whether they be criminal threats or nation-state threats, and the vulnerabilities are greater, and our dependence is greater. So all that adds up to a lot of challenges, but at the same time I am optimistic that we are taking this seriously as a real policy priority, both at the governmental level and with the private sector and civil society. You know, China and Russia have a very different view of the ecosystem writ large, where they do view this as information security and not cybersecurity. They are worried about, in some ways, destabilizing information. And I think even though they have that very different approach, we also have to try to find some common ground and transparency and build confidence among countries, including with China and Russia. So I think we need to work with them, but at the same time we have to be clear about the future that we want. When we do intelligence gathering in the US, it's to protect, it's for security and to protect our citizenry. It's not targeting people's communications for purposes of suppressing their human rights, their political rights. It's not stealing intellectual property to benefit our commercial sector. It's very different. It's to protect our citizenry. And there has been a lot of work, and there's a lot of oversight and transparency in the US system on this. I do think that other governments who have different views, more repressive governments, I think try to use this as an opportunity to argue for a more fragmented internet, to have more government control of the internet, and I think that's misplaced. I think an open internet and an inclusive internet really is the way to go. The public understand what what's at stake. What are the goals that we're trying to achieve here? Having an open internet that is unified, that is not fragmented, that allows economic growth, tremendous economic innovation and growth, tremendous social growth and innovation. That is really what's at stake, and we can't let that be undermined. So we share the same goals, we share the same values in getting there. We need to build that really consensus of countries, which includes the developing world, and must really include the developing world and not just the developed world, along this path, because this is going to benefit them substantially in the future.